This is MorningLine with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. Nick Barris here with you on a Wednesday. We're live and direct. This is not a tape show. I'm in studio here at News Channel 5, and we continue, as you might imagine, our coverage of the coronavirus. This morning, the program, again, is going to be live as you watch us right now on News Channel 5 Plus, wherever you may be. We also, again, and I think we're going to be doing this more and more, are streaming live on Facebook at newschannel5.com, so you're welcome to ask questions and comments there. I'll be monitoring that as we make our way through the show. Unlike yesterday when we had Jim Shulman in studio down the way from me here, but separate, we do not have a guest in studio, but we do have a guest joining us in the moment here. We're going to talk the first portion of our program today on Skype with our guest, and I'll tell you who she is in a moment. And then later in the program, we've got the very latest information in from the $2 trillion stimulus plan that's been agreed to by Congress. Keep in mind, that is not yet passed. It's going to. They've reached an agreement, and the president is expected to sign it likely before the end of today. But many of you are wondering the details in that. Specifically, many of you want to know who's going to get checks and who's not. I have a lot of that information. We can take some of your questions on that in the latter part of the program. But for the first part of the show, and I hope you'll bear with us because we're doing this by Skype, there could be some technical problems as we adjust to this new way of doing things. But our guest this morning is Dr. Lloyda Williamson. You may recognize her. There she is. Good morning to you, ma'am. She is the chair and professor of the Psychiatry School at Meharry Medical College. She was involved in yesterday's news conference with the mayor here in Metro. And you told me before the show, doctor, that you think it's very important we spend more time talking about the mental and psychiatric effect of dealing with this coronavirus. Tell me more about that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Nick. So even before this coronavirus crisis, we are actually having a mental health crisis. There is a shortage of mental health providers to address the needs, psychiatrists in particular, and specialty psychiatrists, whether it's child and adolescent psychiatrists or geriatric psychiatrists, are experiencing an increased need because of mental health issues. The facts we have now show that at least 50% of all Americans will experience some sort of mental health issue during their lifetime. And not everybody has access or equal access to those mental health providers, psychologists, therapists, social workers, and these unmet mental health needs actually have a negative impact on our physical health. So unmet needs, individuals can have more problems with cardiac issues, obesity, and then susceptible to other diagnoses and mental health needs.
Dr. Williamson, can you hear me? Let me ask you this, and I understand you're right, and we knew there was an issue even before this happened, but with regard to the coronavirus, I'm guessing that magnifies the problems you're talking about. And I'm wondering just about fear and some of the anxiety people are feeling with this. I assume there's a concern for you that many of these folks could actually benefit from some of the services you're talking about, and you're saying they're just not available?
Yeah, so the availability is greater for some individuals for others. And I mentioned that because we have a baseline level of stress. People are stressed with their jobs, finances, lack of support. So even as in the Nashville era, we had the tornado, that's another level of stress. And now with people being at home, concerns about finances, concerns about childcare, concerns about how they're going to meet their educational needs. Each level adds another layer. And so now with the concern about the coronavirus is a significant layer. What's really different, and I was thinking about this, when we think about trauma and disasters, you have a tornado and then it's over and you deal with the aftermath. You have a flood, you deal with the aftermath. But with this crisis, we're sort of waiting, not sure when it's going to hit our community, how it's going to hit our community, and how to be able to mobilize resources. So this is a different type of stress added on to, and fear that's added on to the already existing layers of fear.
Makes sense. Let me ask you this then, doctor. For folks who are maybe sheltering at home and they're isolated, they're not in a position where they can reach out to a psychiatrist or psychologist to talk. What tips, what can you give people to deal with at home as they deal with some of the anxieties, whether they're just home and they're scared, whether they're bored, they're wondering what to do with themselves, their mind's running wild as they have a lot of things, you know, that they cannot do, and they're just sitting there. What can people do to help themselves?
That's very good. And one of the things we do know is that there are things in our world that we can't control, but we can focus on the things that we can control. So developing healthy habits, and this is part of what I mentioned yesterday, maintaining a routine or establishing a new routine if you're unable to do the things that you usually do. So making sure that you have regular sleep habits. Sleep is so very important for the rest for our physical body as we've been active during the day. As Americans, our diet is not the best overall. So making sure as best we can that we're eating fruits and vegetables and not just overloading on carbohydrates and proteins. A lot of times, drinking water is essential. And when we think that we're hungry, what is actually happening in our body is that we're thirsty. And instead of replenishing our body with water, we tend to overeat. Outside in your space where you can still be protected 6 feet away from other people, but taking a walk up and down your driveway, your walkway, if it's raining like it was pouring yesterday, just doing some laps around the room in your house, doing some stretching exercises, knee bending. Physical activity is important. I'm hopeful today we'll get some sunshine. The sunshine actually helps a lot in terms of our mood, improving our mood, and can be very beneficial. I mentioned yesterday we want to be well informed, but too much information can be overwhelming and anxiety provoking. Picking some specific times of the day to watch the news or listen to news reports, and then taking a break and doing some pleasurable activities. Bake cookies in your house, do some creative things, coloring, painting, or just playing some games as we interact with our family. And then, of course, when we're feeling anxious, just taking some time to think about our body senses and understand that our body reacts to anxiety when we're feeling anxious. Taking a deep breath and breathing out is very beneficial to slowing down our heart rate and slowing down our respirations or our breathing that tends to increase when we're anxious. And of course, reaching out to other people, either Facebook or Skype or texting, phone calls, and just connecting with people to see how they're doing and sharing how you're doing so that you're not isolated totally from everyone. So these are just some things that are very important, I think, as we understand that our taking care of our mental health is important as we guard for our physical health.
Excellent suggestions there. Listen, doctor, we have to take a quick break. We're going to come back one more segment with you, and all those things you say make sense. And I do think it's important, too, to speak to especially many of those individuals who maybe are alone, that live by themselves. I mean, if you have a family around you or people that you're living with, maybe that's a little bit easier. But you know what I do? I eat chicken and dumplings. Makes me feel better. Comfort foods. Listen, we'll take a break. We'll be back. More with the doctor. And then later in the program, we're going to get into more details. I know many of you asking right now about when those stimulus checks are going to go out. As we've said, Congress reached an agreement overnight. The president likely to sign some kind of deal later today. I've got the very latest on that. We're streaming live on Facebook. I'm going to get to some of your comments at newschannel5.com. And you can call in as well when we come back. More right after this.